Chappelle was decapitated in front of us. Then when he made $500 million, they said even though his contract said he should get half of it, they said he made too much for the contract to be valid.
Man, when Katt Williams starts talking, people listen because he don't just speak, he exposes. And this time he's lighting up the whole industry by calling out what he says really went down with Dave Chappelle's missing millions. Katt sitting there breaking down how one of the most powerful comedians in the world, the same dude who walked away from one of the biggest TV deals ever, somehow ended up short by what he calls $500 million.
He made $500 million and they offered him 50? Yes. And he said, what do you think my fans are going to say when they find out you offered me 10% of what I made you? And they said, your fans will believe that you're a crazy crackhead by the time you get home.
Yeah, $500 million gone, just like that. And Katt's voice got that mix of anger and disbelief, like he can't believe the world just let this happen. He says the truth ain't just about the money, it's about the way Hollywood moves, how it eats up talent, spits it out, and then hides behind contracts, smiles, and fake loyalty. He paints this wild picture of what happened behind those shiny studio doors, saying that Dave Chappelle didn't lose his money. Somebody took it. Not just one person, but a system designed to make sure real artists never walk away with what they truly deserve. Katt explains that these entertainment contracts are traps, straight up mazes built to confuse people who only wanted to make people laugh.
Did your wife and children know where you're going?
No.
No, nobody knew.
No. I bounced.
Now that sounds a little crazy.
It's not crazy because the situation kind of warranted it.
The worst thing to call somebody is crazy is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bullshit. These people are not crazy. They're strong people. Maybe the environment is a little sick.
He says that when Dave signed his famous Comedy Central deal for Chappelle's show, he wasn't told the full truth about who owned what or how the profits would flow. And Katt calls it out clear. He says those contracts are written to take your art, your name, and your profit and leave you with the crumbs.
He made $500 million and they offered him 50? Yes.
It's wild because, according to Katt, Dave's creativity made billions for networks and executives, but the man himself was only seeing a small fraction of that pie. Then Katt goes even deeper. He connects it all to how powerful companies use control and silence to protect themselves. He says when Chappelle started asking questions, people began treating him like he was crazy. Remember how back in the day when Dave left his show and flew to Africa, the media went nuts saying he had lost it? Katt says that was no breakdown. That was a man waking up. He says the media's crazy label was a tactic, a way to turn fans against him, to make sure nobody questioned why one of the most successful comedians in America suddenly disappeared. Katt puts it like this: they had to make him look unstable because the truth would have made them look guilty. And that hits hard because when you look back, it's clear Dave wasn't running from fame. He was running from being owned.
So I got ahead of schedule and I bounced. And I didn't tell anybody where I was going. The whole time, they're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication. Yeah. Like I'm sitting around, I was stressed out, but the people that were telling me I was insane, I believe that they knew what was going on. So, this was troublesome.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not taking this medicine, man, because I know these people be trying to control you or maybe discredit you. I was afraid,
But you were stressed out. That's why.
There's no question. But it's very stressful for someone to constantly walk behind you and say, you're insane. Oh, hey, how about this? I showed up to work the first week, and where my office used to be, they built a wall there.
Why?
I didn't know why. But it came out later that they were like, well, they said you wanted it. I don't want to be walled up in the office. I like hanging.
Katt even talks about how this kind of industry setup ain't just about Chappelle. It's been happening to black entertainers for decades. He says from musicians to actors to comedians, the pattern's the same. They give you the spotlight, but they take your soul behind the scenes. He brings up how labels and studios use back-end ownership and distribution deals that sound fancy but really mean one thing: control. He explains how those same people who smile in your face are the ones cashing checks off your name for years even after you leave the game. Katt doesn't name drop recklessly, but he hints that it's not just random executives. It's a network of big players, the ones who control the shows, the ratings, the ad dollars, the streaming rights, the folks who can turn your fame into their fortune without you even noticing. He also highlights how Dave Chappelle fought back years later when Netflix started streaming Chappelle's show without his approval. Katt says that was Dave finally standing up and saying, "You can't use my name and face to make money if I ain't being paid." That moment, Katt says, was the turning point, proof that artists could fight the system and win. But before that, the damage was already done. Katt's belief is that the $500 million that was stolen represents years of reruns, licensing, ad revenue, and hidden royalties. All the money that should have gone to Chappelle, but ended up in other people's pockets. He calls it legal robbery, the kind that's too clean to call a crime, but too dirty to call fair.
Why'd you walk away from $50 million?
Well, I wasn't walking away from the money.
Yeah.
I was walking away from the circumstances that were coming with the newfound plateau.
Yeah.
It takes a while when you punch through to adjust to the atmosphere. It was completely outside of my frame of reference. I've been in show business since I was 14, and I've heard the stories of what happens, and I've seen these kinds of things play out in front of me.
Okay. When you say you heard the stories, what do you mean? What stories?
I mean, you see before, look, Mariah Carey made a $100 million deal, and 3 months later, she's all of a sudden mysteriously crazy. Or Martin Lawrence punches through and he's waving a gun on the street screaming, "They're trying to kill me."
Yeah. Yeah, we hear those stories.
And it always happens around the time in their career where it seems as though they're crossing over the next plateau.
Yeah. Would you say you lost your mind, sort of?
No.
No.
Not exactly.
Okay.
I wasn't crazy, but it's incredibly stressful.
And the way Katt says it, you can feel his frustration, not just for Dave, but for every artist who ever got played by the game. He says Hollywood is like a casino. You can win a little, but the house always wins big. The contracts are written in small print. The agents work both sides, and the advisors are often part of the same system that profits off your confusion. Katt says, they teach you how to perform, not how to read the fine print. That line hits deep because it's the truth. Most entertainers focus on the art, not the paperwork, and that's where the sharks move in. Katt even breaks down how when Chappelle left that $50 million deal back in the early 2000s, people clowned him like he was crazy for walking away. But now, Katt says, that move looks like genius because Dave didn't sell his soul for a paycheck. He wanted freedom, and that's something money can't buy. Katt says that's why Chappelle can speak freely now, because he doesn't owe the industry nothing. But according to him, the folks who controlled the show back then never stopped making money off it, even when Dave wasn't involved. So when Katt throws out that $500 million number, it's not just a random figure. It's his way of saying, look how deep this goes. The wild part is how calm Katt stays when he talks about it. He's not yelling, he's explaining, like a man who's seen too much and just can't hold it in anymore. He says, if it can happen to Chappelle, it can happen to anyone. That right there makes people think if one of the smartest, sharpest, and most respected comedians could get caught in a setup like that, imagine what happens to the ones without power or fame. Katt calls it the real price of Hollywood success, saying most people think fame is freedom, but it's really another kind of cage. And that's just the beginning. Katt's just warming up in this first part. He's not just telling a story, he's opening a vault that's been locked for years. And you can tell he's ready to name names and connect dots that people have been scared to touch. Katt Williams didn't just stop at saying Dave Chappelle got robbed. He started laying out the how. The man goes in like a detective, breaking down the game piece by piece, showing how money in Hollywood never flows straight. According to Katt, when you're the talent, the face that people love, the name that sells out arenas, you think you're the one calling the shots. But now he says that's just the illusion. The real bosses sit behind the contracts, the lawyers, and the networks, pulling strings and collecting checks while the star gets just a slice. And Katt says that's exactly what happened to Chappelle, a genius who built a cultural empire only for the business side to eat off his creation for decades. He points out how the whole setup around Chappelle's show was built to benefit the network, not the artist. Katt says they didn't just license his show, they licensed him. And that's wild when you think about it. Every skit, every joke, every moment that fans loved was owned by people who didn't even write a word. Katt compares it to being the chef who cooks the meal, but somebody else owns the restaurant, the recipe, and even the tip jar. He explains how the $50 million deal people thought was legendary was actually bait, a way to make Dave feel like he won while they were planning to make 10 times that behind the scenes. Then Katt dives into what he calls the Hollywood math, where every dollar an artist earns gets chopped into pieces before it even reaches them. He breaks it down like this: the manager takes a cut, the agent takes a cut, the lawyer takes a cut, the production house takes a cut, and by the time it hits the artist's account, it's crumbs. And that's if they even get the full amount they were promised. He says, they make you rich just enough to keep you quiet. That line hits deep because that's the real trap. The system keeps you comfortable enough that you won't question where the real money's going. Katt says what makes Dave's story even more powerful is that he didn't fold when they tried to control him. He knew something was off when executives were making hundreds of millions off reruns, syndication, and merchandise, while his own checks weren't matching up. That's when he started asking questions, and that's when, according to Katt, they flipped the switch on him. Suddenly, the narrative became Dave's unstable, Dave lost his mind, Dave abandoned his fans. But Katt says that was all strategy. The moment you stop playing their game, they turn you into the villain. It's like they'd rather destroy your image than admit they stole your shine. He even touches on how this pattern ain't unique. He says it's been happening to artists since way back. Katt brings up legends who created timeless art, only to die broke while corporations got rich off their legacy. He mentions how music stars had hits that sold millions, but their contracts said they only got pennies per record. It's the same game, different name, Katt says. He calls it modern slavery in designer suits, and when you hear it like that, it's chilling, because it ain't just about Chappelle anymore. It's about the system that keeps repeating this cycle. Then Katt hits a nerve when he says that the industry thrives on silence. He claims that once artists realize what's going on, most stay quiet because they're scared. Scared of losing deals, getting blacklisted, or having their image destroyed. He says they don't even gotta threaten you, they just erase you. That's the kind of line that sticks with you because we've all seen stars who vanish suddenly, careers that fade out with no explanation, and Katt's out here saying it ain't coincidence, it's control. And that's why he respects Dave so much, because he walked away instead of selling out. According to Katt, that $500 million wasn't just money, it was ownership. It was every rerun, every DVD sale, every stream, every time someone quoted a Chappelle skit. That's where the real money lives, and Katt says that's what they took from him. They didn't have to rob him in an alley, they robbed him with paperwork and handshakes. They don't steal with guns, Katt says, they steal with contracts. That's a whole bar right there. He's basically saying that the biggest thieves in entertainment wear suits, not masks. And he connects this to a bigger truth about how the business keeps artists in the dark. Katt says Hollywood don't teach you about ownership, they teach you about fame. They tell you how to be likable, how to go viral, but not how to own your masters, your content, your name. He says that's why they push certain people to the front, the ones they can control, while real ones like Chappelle, who ask questions, get sidelined or silenced. It's all about keeping the machine running, not letting anyone realize how much power they really have. Katt also points out that the industry loves using guilt and manipulation to control artists. He says they'll tell you this is your big break, or you're lucky to be here, just to make you sign away your rights. And once you do, it's game over. You might get famous, but you'll never truly be free. He says they'll buy your silence with a paycheck, but they'll never buy your peace. That's why Chappelle's story hit different, because he didn't just want to be paid, he wanted to be respected. And when Katt says this, you can feel the emotion behind it, like he's been through similar fights himself. He's been in the industry long enough to know how deep the manipulation goes. That's why he's not just talking. He's warning artists to read the fine print, to keep control of their work, and to never let the fame blind them to the business. Katt says that's the only way to survive, by learning the system before it learns how to break you. The way he connects all this to Dave's situation makes it sound less like gossip and more like a blueprint of how Hollywood really works. He's showing people that it ain't about who's talented, it's about who owns what. And when he calls out that $500 million, he's not just talking numbers, he's talking power. That's the number they took from Chappelle, but it's also the number they keep taking from anyone who doesn't play their game. Katt Williams wasn't just telling a story, he was dropping a warning to every artist who ever dreamed of making it big. By the time he reached the end of his breakdown, you could feel how personal this was for him. He said what happened to Dave Chappelle wasn't just one man's loss. It was a lesson for the whole industry. Katt said they didn't just steal money from him, they tried to steal his peace, his freedom, and his name. And he made it clear, he said, this game is dangerous if you don't understand the rules, because in Hollywood, the ones smiling in your face might be the same ones plotting behind your back. Katt explains that when Dave walked away from that $50 million deal, people laughed, thinking he was throwing away his career. But now, years later, that move looks like genius. Katt says Chappelle was protecting himself before they could destroy him. He calls it a spiritual escape because Dave chose his sanity over their system. And when he came back stronger, owning his narrative, controlling his voice, and getting paid his way. Katt said, they didn't break him, they just made him sharper. That's why when Chappelle stood up to Netflix and demanded they pull his show until he got paid, the world saw what true ownership looks like. It wasn't just about comedy anymore, it was about power. But Katt didn't just stop there. He flipped the spotlight back on the whole entertainment world. He says that the people who profited off Chappelle's work are the same ones controlling the stories we see every day. They don't just own your content, Katt said, they own your silence. That's heavy. He explains that once they have your name and your likeness, they can make money off you forever. Movies, reruns, merch, even AI recreations now. He said that's why they don't want artists owning their masters or their rights, because then the flow of money shifts and they lose control. He said the real hustle ain't the show, it's the rights behind the show. Then Katt made it personal. He brought up how the same kind of tricks were used on him too. He said when he started speaking truth about the business, suddenly his image got dragged. Remember when every headline called him crazy or unhinged? He said that was no coincidence. That was the same Hollywood playbook. They couldn't silence him with contracts, so they tried to bury his name in controversy. If they can't buy you, they'll brand you, Katt said, and that line hit like lightning. It's the same tactic he said they used on Chappelle. Discredit the messenger so nobody listens to the message. According to Katt, that's why most people in the industry stay quiet. He says they teach you early, talk too much, and they'll erase you. He calls it invisible punishment, where you don't get blacklisted publicly, but the calls stop coming, the deals disappear, and suddenly nobody wants to work with you. It's how they keep control without ever saying a word. But Katt says that silence is exactly what lets them keep stealing. He says artists need to stop being scared and start owning their work, their image, and their truth, because the only weapon against manipulation is knowledge. He also broke down how modern entertainment keeps evolving, but the scams stay the same. He said now it's not just networks and studios, it's streaming platforms, sponsors, and data rights. Every click, every stream, every watch time minute makes somebody rich. And most of the time, it ain't the person on the screen. Katt said, they found new ways to sell you, and you don't even notice it. That hit deep because he's right. We see artists everywhere, but behind that success, most of them are getting crumbs compared to what the system's making. He said the numbers are bigger now, but the game's the same. Keep the artist under control, keep the money flowing upward. Katt also threw light on how fame itself becomes a trap. He said once an artist tastes that spotlight, it's hard to walk away. They know you'll do anything to stay seen, he said, so they use that against you. That's when the manipulation starts. Promises of bigger deals, more exposure, more fame, until you realize you signed away your life. He said the industry feeds on desperation, and that's why so many people end up broke, bitter, or broken after the fame fades. But what separates Dave Chappelle is that he walked away before the cage closed. Katt said, he didn't just escape, he exposed the game. And when Katt says that, it's like he's not just talking to fans, he's talking to every new artist out there. He's telling them, learn from Dave. Don't chase the money, chase the ownership. He said, if you don't own it, you don't control it. And that's the heart of his message, because what's $500 million worth if it means losing your freedom? That's what Chappelle figured out. That peace is more valuable than any paycheck. Katt says that realization is what turned Dave from a comedian into a legend. By the end of it, Katt makes one thing clear. This story ain't just about Chappelle, it's about the whole system. He says the entertainment world is full of paper chains, contracts that look like opportunity but act like shackles. And unless artists start reading, learning, and demanding their worth, the cycle will never end. He said, they've been taken from us since the first note was sung and the first joke was told. And hearing him say that, you can feel generations of frustration coming through. It's not bitterness, it's truth wrapped in pain. Then Katt said something that really stuck. They don't fear your talent, they fear your independence. That right there sums it up. The moment you start thinking for yourself, owning your art, and speaking your truth, you become a threat. And Katt's proof of that. Even after all the backlash, the arrests, the rumors, he's still here, still shining, still speaking. He says he learned from Dave's courage. That walking away sometimes means you're walking toward freedom. So when Katt says, this is who stole $500 million from Dave Chappelle, he's not just naming names, he's naming a system that profits off creativity but punishes independence, a system that turns art into property and artists into products. And in that truth, Katt finds his fire because he refuses to let that story fade. He says, if we don't talk about it, they'll do it again. And that's why he keeps calling it out, because silence protects the thieves, but truth protects the artists. In the end, Katt's message hits harder than any punchline. It's about reclaiming power. He's reminding people that the most dangerous thing in Hollywood isn't fame or money, it's ownership. That's what they stole from Chappelle. That's what they keep stealing from others, and that's what he's fighting to expose. He ends his talk with energy, saying, they can take your show, your check, even your reputation, but they can't take your truth. That's Katt Williams, raw, real, and fearless, standing tall in a world that tried to silence both him and Chappelle, turning pain into purpose and truth into power.